Hi guys, this one is actually a video for Anna who recently messaged me regarding my thoughts on something, and I thought it makes sense to do a video because I think this could actually be useful for other people as well. Um, Anna reached out to me and asked me what my thoughts were around making life-changing big decisions. And I've had a lot of thoughts about this actually. And what became apparent is that it didn't really matter what that decision was, whether it's a career change, maybe moving house, maybe a relationship status, maybe spirituality, maybe religion. The process in which we go through in order to get to the outcome is basically identical. So just going to share some of those thoughts, and hopefully this will help. So the first thing that came to mind was acceptance. Now, we're actually making decisions every single day of our life, through from what time we get up in the morning, what we have for breakfast, and even how fast we drive to work. But those decisions are very easily made because the reasons behind doing those decisions are very clear. We often get stuck when decisions that we're making are, they seem fairly equal on either side. So when I say acceptance, what I really mean is like just accepting that whichever way you cut this, there's going to be an air of loss. And often people get stuck because they're trying to find the solution that brings the most gain and limits the most loss. Now, it becomes really tough when two possibilities seem very equal and both of them have an equal amount of gain and equal amount of loss. So just accepting that loss is going to be part of this might just release the pressure a little bit around making that decision. So the next one is around aligning these decisions with your long-term goals and your long-term desires. And if you fast forward maybe 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, what actually do you want your life to look like, and how do these decisions align with what that view is long-term? I think long-term is key because I think a lot of people get put off by doing something long-term because of the immediate stress of doing something. So, for example, if you're moving house and you may be moving to an area where you don't know anybody, well, it's bloody stressful to move house, but then you're not going to have your friends close by and you're going to have to make new friends, and there's all this stress attached to it. But if you fast forward 10 years, if that moving house is something that really feels that that's a desire of yours, then that's something you really need to consider. So I guess the question I would recommend at this stage is, will this decision get me closer to that outcome? And that's only something that it's a very personal choice and only you can really decide. The next one that I'd recommend is, does this thing put you into your what I call the happy zone? And a happy zone is really when you're in flow. It's when you feel alive. It's when you feel really excited. It's when you could do this thing forever, and time just flies by. As opposed to your comfort zone, where the majority of people tend to live because it's very safe. And when I say live, I just mean like exist, and people stay within their bubble of safety, and therefore that's their comfort zone. But when people get into their happy zone, they really feel it. They just feel like they're in flow. Maybe it's a job that they love so much that they could just do forever. It doesn't even really feel like a job, but they enjoy it so much. So that's what I mean by flow. And I think the thing to work out is if this thing that you're contemplating is going to take you closer to that happy zone. The next thing I would consider is to get yourself a coach, a mentor, or an advisor. Now, it sounds I might be a bit biased because I'm a coach, but I do strongly recommend that you veer away from asking your friends and family, because generally your friends and family are going to be very similar to you, so they'll have the same concerns, the same fear thoughts, and it might confuse you further. So they have good intentions, they have you at heart, and when they're giving you their advice, but I would recommend staying away from that. If you don't have a mentor, a coach, or an advisor, then maybe think about a person that you admire. What is it about that person that you admire? What decisions would they make, and why would they make those decisions? And just consider those as well. Otherwise, you could just get too muddled up in your own brain with these pros and cons of each one. The next one I would consider is visualization. So this one is more tapping into an emotional aspect rather than it all being about thought. So visualize and really imagine yourself doing this thing, and fast forward 5 years and 10 years. How does that feel when you actually visualize that particular outcome? And then do the opposite. So imagine yourself not doing this thing, and in 10 years' time, what does that look like and what does that feel like? And really tap into how that feels. So do you kind of come up with a yeah, not really, not whatever, like not so bothered? Is it, oh, that'd be all right, yeah, it'd be pretty cool? Or is it like a hell yes, like this is something I've got to do? Really let that resonate in, and I think that's going to be a big part of this. Like, really long-term thinking is something that you have to consider, particularly when it's a life-changing decision. The next one I would suggest is around values. Now, I talk a lot about values. They come up a lot in my blogs and my videos, but I really do think this is an important part. So I would make a list of what your priority values are. Now, examples of values, it could be happiness, it could be freedom, freedom from something or freedom to something. Health and fitness, it could be courage, it could be fulfillment, it could be family, it could be love. There's so many different things that are actually really important. So I'd make a list of what those values are to you, and then see how they align with each option, and weigh them up in that way, rather than weighing up things like money, because you might be chasing a bigger job, for example, that gives you more money, and then but if your values are around spending more time with your friends or your family or having more fulfillment, well then maybe that job with more money might require you spending 4 hours a day extra at work, or maybe the commute is horrendous. Is that going to actually fulfill your core values? So look at the values as well and see how they align with both options that you're looking at. And then finally, I think one thing to consider is just trust that whatever you do, you're going to be okay. And that sometimes just takes the pressure off, even the stress of making such decisions. If you do this thing, you're going to be okay, and if you don't do this thing, you're going to be okay. If you do choose to do it, a lot of people worry that maybe the grass is greener, and then when you get there, the grass isn't greener at all. It doesn't mean you're stuck. It doesn't mean that you've messed up forever and everything has just gone to shit. Life just doesn't work that way. So even if you were to make it, what's the worst thing that can happen? There's things you can tweak. If you buy a new house, you can always move again. I mean, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. If it's a new job and it isn't what you thought it was going to be, well, then you can get a new job. Like, there's always options. You're not trapped in that. So just to know that if you do this thing, you're going to be okay. And similarly, if you choose not to, you're still going to be okay. It doesn't mean that life is over. Anyway, so I hope that helped. If you enjoyed that, sign up to my YouTube channel, and I'll be back soon with some future thoughts. Speak to you soon. Cheers. Bye.